Do you remember those classic casseroles from the 1960s? Tucked away in old cookbooks and rarely seen on today's tables? These dishes were simple, comforting, and could turn everyday ingredients into a meal the whole family would love. Somehow, they faded from our kitchens, replaced by quicker, modern options. It's time to bring them back and rediscover the flavors that made family dinners truly special. Tuna noodle surprise. In the 1960s, tuna noodle surprise was a quintessential mid-century American casserole, combining convenience, comfort, and affordability into a single baked dish. It became a staple in family kitchens, known for its creamy texture, tender noodles, and flavorful combination of tuna and vegetables. This casserole reflected the era's fascination with practical one-dish meals, which could be prepared quickly, stretched to feed a crowd, and used to transform pantry staples into a hearty, satisfying dinner.
Tuna noodle casserole is definitely...
The recipe typically began with cooked egg noodles, which formed a tender and substantial base. Canned tuna, drained and flaked, was mixed with the noodles to provide protein, while peas or other vegetables were often added to give color, texture, and a touch of freshness. The creamy binder, often made from a combination of a can of cream of mushroom soup, milk, and sometimes mayonnaise, held the casserole together and contributed a rich, velvety consistency. Seasonings were simple, usually salt, pepper, and occasionally a dash of paprika or mustard for subtle depth. Generous amounts of shredded cheese, commonly cheddar or American, were folded into the mixture and sprinkled on top, creating a bubbling golden crust as it baked. Some variations included crushed potato chips or breadcrumbs on the topping, adding a slightly crisp texture that contrasted beautifully with the creamy interior. For 1960s homemakers, tuna noodle surprise was both practical and versatile. It made use of inexpensive canned ingredients, required minimal hands-on preparation, and could be assembled quickly for a weeknight meal or a potluck. Its creamy, cheesy layers appealed to children and adults alike, and the one-dish format simplified cooking and cleanup. The casserole could also be adapted based on what ingredients were available, demonstrating the resourceful, economical approach of mid-century home cooking. Though less common today, tuna noodle surprise remains a nostalgic reminder of mid-century culinary ingenuity. Its tender noodles, flavorful tuna, creamy sauce, and golden topping evoke memories of family dinners, casual gatherings, and comforting meals prepared with practicality and care. Reviving this casserole celebrates a dish that is both satisfying and timeless, proving that simple ingredients, when combined thoughtfully, can create a meal full of flavor and nostalgia. Chicken divan. In the 1960s, chicken divan was a beloved casserole that combined tender chicken, broccoli, and a rich, creamy sauce into a comforting baked dish. Originally inspired by the elegant French-American cuisine served at New York's Divan restaurant, this casserole quickly became a staple in mid-century American kitchens for its ease, flavor, and family-friendly appeal. It perfectly exemplified the era's love of one-dish meals that were practical, economical, and satisfying, making it a favorite for weeknight dinners, potlucks, and casual entertaining.
West Mood and Food. Today I'm going to show you how to make chicken divan.
The recipe typically began with cooked, diced chicken, paired with lightly steamed broccoli to provide both color and texture. A creamy sauce, often made from a combination of mayonnaise or cream of chicken soup, milk, and sometimes a hint of cheddar or Swiss cheese, coated the chicken and broccoli, creating a rich and cohesive casserole. Seasonings such as salt, pepper, and a touch of curry or nutmeg were occasionally added to enhance the flavor profile. The mixture was poured into a baking dish, topped with shredded cheese or breadcrumbs, and baked until bubbling and golden. The result was a casserole with tender chicken, crisp, tender broccoli, and a creamy, flavorful sauce complemented by a lightly crisp, cheesy topping. For 1960s homemakers, chicken divan was both practical and versatile. It made use of simple, readily available ingredients, could stretch small amounts of chicken into a filling meal, and required minimal hands-on preparation. Its creamy, cheesy layers appealed to children and adults alike, while the one-dish format simplified cooking and cleanup. Variations could include substituting the broccoli for other vegetables or adding extra seasonings, making it adaptable to family preferences. Though it has largely faded from modern menus, chicken divan remains a nostalgic reminder of mid-century culinary ingenuity. Its tender chicken, creamy sauce, and golden topping evoke memories of family dinners, holiday meals, and comforting, practical casseroles. Reviving this dish celebrates a classic that is both satisfying and timeless, highlighting the resourcefulness, flavor, and comfort that defined 1960s American home cooking. Tater tot hottish. In the 1960s, tater tot hottish was a quintessential Midwestern comfort casserole, combining simplicity, heartiness, and convenience into a single baked dish. It became a favorite in family kitchens and church potlucks, known for its easy preparation, satisfying flavor, and ability to stretch inexpensive ingredients into a filling meal. This casserole perfectly captured the mid-century American love of one-dish dinners that were practical, economical, and crowd-pleasing.
My tater tot casserole, it's an explosion of...
The recipe typically began with browned ground beef, seasoned with salt, pepper, and occasionally onions or garlic for added flavor. A creamy binder, often made from a can of cream of mushroom or cream of celery soup mixed with milk, was combined with cooked vegetables such as corn, green beans, or peas. The mixture was spread in a baking dish and topped with a generous layer of tater tots, which created a golden, crisp exterior while insulating the hot dish's tender, creamy interior. As the casserole baked, the tots became lightly browned and slightly crisp on top, while the filling remained rich, savory, and comforting. Some recipes also sprinkled shredded cheese over the top for added flavor and a melty, golden finish. For 1960s homemakers, tater tot hottish was practical and versatile. It could feed a family affordably, make use of pantry staples and leftover vegetables, and required minimal hands-on preparation. Its creamy, cheesy layers and crisp-topped tater tots appealed to children and adults alike, while the one-dish format simplified cooking and cleanup. The casserole could also be adapted with different vegetables, meats, or seasonings, demonstrating the resourcefulness and creativity of mid-century home cooks. Though largely forgotten outside the Midwest today, tater tot hottish remains a nostalgic reminder of mid-century American comfort food. Its tender meat, creamy filling, and golden tater tot topping evoke memories of cozy family dinners, community gatherings, and practical, satisfying meals. Reviving this casserole celebrates a dish that is both hearty and timeless, exemplifying the flavor, ingenuity, and warmth of 1960s home cooking. Ham and potato bake. In the 1960s, ham and potato bake was a comforting, practical casserole that turned simple, affordable ingredients into a hearty, family-friendly meal. It became a staple in American kitchens, celebrated for its ease of preparation, filling nature, and ability to feed a crowd with minimal effort. This casserole perfectly reflected the mid-century emphasis on one-dish meals that were both convenient and satisfying, making it ideal for weeknight dinners, Sunday suppers, and casual gatherings.
Our ham and potato bake.
The recipe typically began with cooked diced ham, combined with thinly sliced or diced potatoes. A creamy binder, often made from a can of cream of mushroom or cream of celery soup mixed with milk or butter, coated the ham and potatoes, ensuring a rich, cohesive casserole. Some recipes included sautéed onions, green peppers, or shredded cheese for added flavor and texture. Seasonings were simple, usually salt, pepper, and occasionally a pinch of paprika or mustard to enhance the savory profile. The casserole was baked until the potatoes were tender, the ham was heated through, and the top developed a golden, slightly crisp finish. The result was a creamy, flavorful interior contrasted by a lightly brown topping that invited everyone to the table. For 1960s homemakers, ham and potato bake was both economical and versatile. It made use of leftover ham, stretched small amounts of meat into a filling meal, and required minimal hands-on preparation. Its creamy, cheesy layers appealed to both children and adults, while the one-dish format simplified cooking and cleanup. The casserole could also be adapted depending on what vegetables or cheeses were on hand, demonstrating the resourceful and practical approach to home cooking common in the era. Though less common today, ham and potato bake remains a nostalgic reminder of mid-century American culinary ingenuity. Its tender potatoes, savory ham, and golden topping evoke memories of family dinners, community potlucks, and comforting practical meals. Reviving this casserole celebrates a dish that is both hearty and timeless, showcasing the flavor, warmth, and resourcefulness of 1960s home kitchens. Swiss chicken casserole. In the 1960s, Swiss chicken casserole was a popular mid-century dish that combined tender chicken, rich cheese, and a creamy sauce into a comforting baked meal. Inspired by the era's fascination with simple, elegant home-cooked casseroles, it became a staple in American kitchens, celebrated for its ease of preparation, flavor, and family-friendly appeal. This casserole perfectly embodied the practical yet satisfying one-dish meals that were central to mid-century home cooking.
I'm making a Swiss chicken casserole.
The recipe typically began with cooked diced chicken, paired with cooked rice, noodles, or sometimes a medley of vegetables for added texture and nutrition. A creamy sauce, often made from a can of cream of mushroom or cream of chicken soup, mixed with milk or mayonnaise, enveloped the ingredients, providing a rich and cohesive base. Seasonings such as salt, pepper, garlic powder, or a touch of paprika were used to enhance flavor, while shredded Swiss cheese was folded into the mixture and sprinkled generously on top. Breadcrumbs or crushed crackers were occasionally added for a lightly crisp topping. Once baked, the casserole emerged bubbling and golden, with tender chicken, a creamy, flavorful interior, and a slightly crisp, cheesy top layer. For 1960s homemakers, Swiss chicken casserole was both practical and versatile. It allowed leftover chicken to be transformed into a hearty, filling meal and could be adapted to use available pantry staples. Its creamy, cheesy layers appealed to both children and adults, while the one-dish format simplified preparation and cleanup. The casserole's versatility also meant it could serve as a weeknight dinner, a dish for entertaining, or a hearty contribution to potlucks. Though less common today, Swiss chicken casserole remains a nostalgic reminder of mid-century culinary ingenuity. Its tender chicken, creamy sauce, and golden Swiss cheese topping evoke memories of family dinners, holiday meals, and comforting, practical, home-cooked dishes. Reviving this casserole celebrates a dish that is both satisfying and timeless, showcasing the flavor, warmth, and resourcefulness of 1960s American kitchens. Beef and biscuit casserole. In the 1960s, beef and biscuit casserole was a hearty and practical dish that epitomized mid-century American comfort cooking. Combining savory ground beef with tender vegetables, a creamy sauce, and a fluffy biscuit topping, it became a favorite for family dinners, potlucks, and casual gatherings. This casserole reflected the era's focus on one-dish meals that were convenient, economical, and satisfying, offering a warm, filling meal that could easily feed a crowd. The recipe typically began with browned ground beef, seasoned with salt, pepper, and sometimes onions or garlic to enhance its savory flavor. Vegetables like peas, corn, or carrots were often added for texture, color, and nutrition. A creamy binder, usually made from a can of cream of mushroom or cream of celery soup mixed with milk, tied the ingredients together while adding richness and moisture. The mixture was poured into a baking dish and topped with prepared biscuit dough, either from scratch or canned, which baked into golden, fluffy mounds. As the casserole cooked, the biscuit topping puffed up and developed a lightly crisp golden crust, contrasting beautifully with the savory, creamy filling beneath. For 1960s homemakers, beef and biscuit casserole was both versatile and practical. It could stretch inexpensive ground beef into a filling meal, make use of pantry staples, and required minimal hands-on time in the kitchen. Its creamy, savory layers and golden biscuit topping appealed to both children and adults, while the one-dish format simplified preparation and cleanup. The casserole could also be adapted with different vegetables, seasonings, or types of biscuits, reflecting the resourceful, adaptable approach of mid-century home cooks. Though largely forgotten today, beef and biscuit casserole remains a nostalgic reminder of mid-century ingenuity and comfort. Its tender meat, creamy sauce, and golden biscuit topping evoke memories of family dinners, community gatherings, and practical, satisfying meals. Reviving this casserole celebrates a dish that is both comforting and timeless, showcasing the flavor, warmth, and resourcefulness of 1960s American kitchens. Green bean tuna bake. In the 1960s, green bean tuna bake was a classic mid-century casserole, combining pantry staples into a creamy, hearty, and family-friendly dish. It became a staple in American kitchens for its simplicity, affordability, and ability to feed a crowd with minimal effort. This casserole perfectly exemplified the era's love for one-dish meals that were convenient, satisfying, and versatile, making it ideal for weeknight dinners, potlucks, and casual gatherings. The recipe typically began with canned tuna, drained and flaked, mixed with cooked green beans or canned cut beans to provide texture, color, and nutrition. A creamy binder, often made from a can of cream of mushroom or cream of celery soup, combined with milk or mayonnaise, held the ingredients together while adding richness and a smooth, velvety consistency. Cooked noodles or rice were sometimes incorporated to make the casserole more filling. Seasonings were simple, usually salt, pepper, and a dash of paprika for subtle depth. Generous amounts of shredded cheese, commonly cheddar or American, were folded into the mixture and sprinkled on top, creating a golden, bubbling crust as it baked. Some variations included crushed potato chips or breadcrumbs for added texture, providing a lightly crisp contrast to the creamy interior. For 1960s homemakers, green bean tuna bake was both practical and economical. It made use of inexpensive canned ingredients, could stretch small amounts of tuna into a filling meal, and required minimal hands-on preparation. Its creamy, cheesy layers appealed to children and adults alike, while the one-dish format simplified cooking and cleanup. The casserole could also be adapted depending on what vegetables or pantry staples were available, reflecting the resourceful approach of mid-century home cooks. Though largely forgotten today, green bean tuna bake remains a nostalgic reminder of mid-century American comfort food. Its tender green beans, flavorful tuna, and golden cheese topping evoke memories of family dinners, potlucks, and practical, satisfying meals. Reviving this casserole celebrates a dish that is both comforting and timeless, highlighting the flavor, resourcefulness, and warmth of 1960s home kitchens. Creamed corn casserole. In the 1960s, creamed corn casserole was a beloved comfort dish that showcased the simplicity and practicality of mid-century American cooking. This casserole combined sweet, tender corn with a creamy binder and a golden, cheesy, or crumbly topping, creating a warm, satisfying dish that could serve as a side or a main for family dinners, holiday meals, or potlucks. Its popularity stemmed from its ease of preparation, affordability, and the comforting flavors that appealed to both children and adults. The recipe typically began with canned or fresh corn, sometimes a combination of whole kernel and creamed corn, to provide a creamy, sweet base. A rich binder, often made from milk, cream, or a can of cream of corn, was added to create a cohesive mixture. Eggs or a touch of flour were sometimes incorporated to help the casserole set as it baked. Seasonings were simple, typically salt, pepper, and occasionally a pinch of sugar or paprika to enhance the flavor. Generous amounts of shredded cheddar or American cheese could be folded in and sprinkled on top, or a layer of breadcrumbs or crushed crackers added a lightly crisp contrast to the creamy interior. As the casserole baked, the corn mixture became tender and custardy, while the topping turned golden and bubbling, creating a visually appealing and flavorful dish. For 1960s homemakers, creamed corn casserole was both economical and versatile. It made use of inexpensive ingredients that were readily available, required minimal hands-on preparation, and could feed a family affordably. Its creamy, slightly sweet layers appealed to a wide range of tastes, while the one-dish format simplified cooking and cleanup. The casserole could also be adapted with different cheeses, spices, or additions like chopped bell peppers to suit personal preference or pantry availability. Though less common today, creamed corn casserole remains a nostalgic reminder of mid-century American ingenuity in the kitchen. Its tender corn, creamy texture, and golden topping evoke memories of family dinners, holiday tables, and practical, comforting meals. Reviving this dish celebrates a classic casserole that is both satisfying and timeless, highlighting the flavor, warmth, and resourcefulness of 1960s home cooking. Turkey tetrazzini. In the 1960s, turkey tetrazzini was a beloved mid-century casserole that transformed leftover turkey into a creamy, comforting baked dish. Named after the Italian opera star Luisa Tetrazzini, this casserole became a staple in American kitchens for its ease, versatility, and ability to turn simple ingredients into a hearty, flavorful meal. It was especially popular for post-holiday dinners, weeknight meals, and potlucks, offering a practical way to use leftover poultry while delighting the whole family. The recipe typically began with cooked shredded turkey, mixed with spaghetti or other long pasta to create a substantial base. A creamy sauce, often made from a combination of cream of mushroom soup, milk, and butter, coated the turkey and noodles, adding richness and moisture. Mushrooms, peas, or pimientos were frequently incorporated to provide color, texture, and additional flavor. Seasonings such as salt, pepper, and occasionally a dash of paprika or nutmeg enhanced the savory profile. The mixture was poured into a baking dish, topped with shredded cheese and breadcrumbs, and baked until bubbly and golden. The result was a casserole with tender turkey, perfectly cooked pasta, a creamy, flavorful sauce, and a lightly crisp, golden topping that created a pleasing contrast in texture. For 1960s homemakers, turkey tetrazzini was both economical and versatile. It allowed leftover turkey to be stretched into a filling meal, made use of pantry staples, and required minimal hands-on preparation. Its creamy, cheesy layers appealed to both children and adults, while the one-dish format simplified cooking and cleanup. The casserole could also be adapted to include different vegetables, seasonings, or types of cheese, demonstrating the resourcefulness and creativity common in mid-century home cooking. Though largely forgotten today, turkey tetrazzini remains a nostalgic reminder of mid-century culinary ingenuity. Its tender turkey, creamy sauce, and golden topping evoke memories of family dinners, holiday meals, and comforting, practical meals. Reviving this casserole celebrates a dish that is both satisfying and timeless, showcasing the flavor, warmth, and resourcefulness of 1960s American kitchens. Macaroni and tomato bake. In the 1960s, macaroni and tomato bake was a simple yet satisfying casserole that reflected the era's love of easy, one-dish meals. Combining tender macaroni with tomato sauce, cheese, and a creamy binder, it became a staple in American kitchens for its convenience, affordability, and family-friendly appeal. This casserole was ideal for weeknight dinners, casual gatherings, and potlucks, offering a hearty, flavorful dish that could feed a crowd with minimal effort. The recipe typically began with cooked macaroni, which formed a tender and substantial base for the dish. Canned tomato soup or tomato sauce was mixed in to provide a rich, tangy flavor, often enhanced with seasonings like salt, pepper, garlic powder, or a touch of sugar to balance acidity. A creamy element, sometimes made from a can of cream of mushroom or cream of celery soup, milk, or mayonnaise, helped bind the ingredients together while adding richness. Shredded cheddar or American cheese was folded into the mixture and sprinkled on top, creating a golden, bubbling crust as it baked. Some recipes added breadcrumbs or crushed crackers for a lightly crisp topping, providing a pleasing contrast to the tender pasta and creamy interior. For 1960s homemakers, macaroni and tomato bake was both practical and versatile. It made use of inexpensive pantry staples, could stretch small amounts of ingredients into a filling meal, and required minimal hands-on preparation. Its cheesy, tomato-rich layers appealed to children and adults alike, while the one-dish format simplified cooking and cleanup. The casserole could also be adapted to include vegetables, ground beef, or different seasonings, demonstrating the resourcefulness and creativity of mid-century home cooks. Though less common today, macaroni and tomato bake remains a nostalgic reminder of mid-century American ingenuity in the kitchen. Its tender pasta, savory tomato sauce, and golden cheese topping evoke memories of family dinners, casual meals, and comforting practical cooking. Reviving this casserole celebrates a dish that is both satisfying and timeless, highlighting the flavor, warmth, and resourcefulness of 1960s home kitchens. Chili cheese casserole. In the 1960s, chili cheese casserole was a hearty, comforting dish that brought together the bold flavors of chili with the creamy richness of melted cheese and the convenience of a baked casserole. Popular in mid-century American kitchens, it reflected the era's love for practical one-dish meals that were both filling and flavorful. This casserole became a go-to for weeknight dinners, potlucks, and family gatherings, offering a warm, satisfying dish that could easily feed a crowd. The recipe typically began with a base of cooked ground beef or browned sausage, seasoned with chili powder, cumin, salt, and pepper to create a rich, savory flavor. Canned tomatoes, beans, or tomato sauce were often added to build a hearty, slightly spicy filling. A creamy or cheesy component, often shredded cheddar or American cheese, was folded into the mixture or sprinkled on top to create a rich, melty layer. Cooked pasta, rice, or cornbread crumbs were sometimes incorporated to make the casserole more substantial. The assembled dish was baked until bubbling and golden, allowing the flavors to meld and the cheese to form a slightly crisp, irresistible topping. For 1960s homemakers, chili cheese casserole was both practical and versatile. It made use of inexpensive, readily available ingredients, could stretch small amounts of meat into a filling meal, and required minimal hands-on preparation. Its cheesy, flavorful layers appealed to children and adults alike, while the one-dish format simplified cooking and cleanup. The casserole could also be adapted with additional vegetables, beans, or seasonings to suit personal taste, reflecting the resourceful and creative approach of mid-century home cooks. Though less common today, chili cheese casserole remains a nostalgic reminder of mid-century American comfort food. Its tender meat, rich chili sauce, and golden melty cheese topping evoke memories of family dinners, casual gatherings, and practical, satisfying meals. Reviving this casserole celebrates a dish that is both hearty and timeless, showcasing the flavor, warmth, and ingenuity of 1960s home kitchens. Shrimp and rice casserole. In the 1960s, shrimp and rice casserole was a beloved mid-century dish that combined tender shrimp with fluffy rice and a creamy, flavorful sauce in a simple, satisfying baked meal. Popular in American kitchens, it reflected the era's focus on convenience, one-dish dinners, and economical yet elegant home cooking. This casserole was perfect for weeknight meals, family gatherings, or potlucks, offering a comforting seafood twist on the classic baked casserole format. The recipe typically began with cooked shrimp, either fresh or thawed from frozen, mixed with cooked rice to create a substantial base. A creamy sauce, often made from a combination of cream of mushroom or cream of celery soup, milk, and sometimes a bit of butter or mayonnaise, coated the shrimp and rice, binding the ingredients together while adding richness. Seasonings such as salt, pepper, paprika, or a touch of Old Bay seasoning enhance the delicate flavor of the shrimp. Shredded cheese, commonly cheddar or American, was folded into the mixture and sprinkled on top, forming a bubbling, golden crust during baking. Some variations included breadcrumbs or crushed crackers to add a lightly crisp texture that contrasted with the creamy interior. For 1960s homemakers, shrimp and rice casserole was both versatile and practical. It made use of affordable ingredients or leftovers, required minimal hands-on preparation, and could feed a family with ease. Its creamy, cheesy layers appealed to both adults and children, while the one-dish format simplified cooking and cleanup. The casserole could also be adapted with vegetables, seasonings, or different types of seafood, reflecting the resourceful and creative approach of mid-century home cooks. Though less common today, shrimp and rice casserole remains a nostalgic reminder of mid-century American ingenuity in the kitchen. Its tender shrimp, flavorful rice, and golden cheesy topping evoke memories of family dinners, casual gatherings, and comforting practical meals. Reviving this casserole celebrates a dish that is both elegant and satisfying, a timeless testament to the flavor, warmth, and creativity of 1960s home cooking. Scalloped ham and noodles. In the 1960s, scalloped ham and noodles was a classic mid-century casserole that turned leftover ham into a creamy, comforting, and hearty baked dish. Popular in American kitchens, it exemplified the era's love of one-dish meals that were practical, economical, and satisfying. This casserole was ideal for weeknight dinners, casual family meals, and potlucks, offering a way to stretch small amounts of meat into a filling and flavorful dinner. The recipe typically began with cooked egg noodles, which formed a tender, substantial base for the dish. Diced or shredded ham was layered with the noodles, providing savory flavor and protein. A creamy sauce, often made from a combination of cream of mushroom or cream of celery soup, milk, and butter, bound the ingredients together while adding richness and moisture. Seasonings were simple, typically salt, pepper, and occasionally a pinch of paprika or dry mustard for depth. Shredded cheddar or Swiss cheese was folded into the mixture and sprinkled on top, creating a bubbling golden crust during baking. Some recipes added breadcrumbs or crushed crackers for a lightly crisp topping, contrasting with the creamy interior. For 1960s homemakers, scalloped ham and noodles were both versatile and practical. It allowed leftover ham to be transformed into a hearty meal, made use of pantry staples, and required minimal hands-on preparation. Its creamy, cheesy layers appealed to children and adults alike, while the one-dish format simplified cooking and cleanup. The casserole could also be adapted with different vegetables or seasonings, reflecting the resourcefulness and creativity common in mid-century home kitchens. Though largely forgotten today, scalloped ham and noodles remains a nostalgic reminder of mid-century American comfort food. Its tender noodles, savory ham, and golden cheesy topping evoke memories of family dinners, holiday meals, and practical, satisfying casseroles. Reviving this dish celebrates a classic that is both comforting and timeless, highlighting the flavor, warmth, and ingenuity of 1960s American home cooking. Corned beef casserole. In the 1960s, corned beef casserole was a hearty and practical dish that turned canned or leftover corned beef into a comforting, family-friendly meal. Popular in mid-century American kitchens, it reflected the era's love of one-dish dinners that were economical, easy to prepare, and satisfying. This casserole was ideal for weeknight meals, casual family dinners, and potlucks, offering a way to transform a simple, affordable ingredient into a rich, flavorful dish. The recipe typically began with chopped or shredded corned beef, combined with cooked noodles, rice, or diced potatoes to create a substantial base. A creamy binder, often made from a can of cream of mushroom or cream of celery soup mixed with milk, coated the ingredients, adding moisture and richness while holding the casserole together. Vegetables such as onions, peas, or green peppers were sometimes added for color, texture, and nutrition. Seasonings were simple, usually salt, pepper, and a touch of paprika or mustard to enhance the savory flavor. Shredded cheese, commonly cheddar or American, was folded into the mixture and sprinkled on top, forming a bubbling golden crust as it baked. Some recipes included breadcrumbs for a lightly crisp topping, adding contrast to the creamy interior. For 1960s homemakers, corned beef casserole was both versatile and practical. It allowed leftover corned beef to be stretched into a filling meal, required minimal hands-on preparation, and made use of inexpensive pantry staples. Its creamy, cheesy layers appealed to children and adults alike, while the one-dish format simplified cooking and cleanup. The casserole could also be adapted with different vegetables, seasonings, or starches, demonstrating the resourceful, adaptable approach of mid-century home cooks. Though largely forgotten today, corned beef casserole remains a nostalgic reminder of mid-century American ingenuity in the kitchen. Its tender meat, creamy sauce, and golden cheesy topping evoke memories of family dinners, casual gatherings, and practical, satisfying meals. Reviving this dish celebrates a casserole that is both comforting and timeless, highlighting the flavor, warmth, and resourcefulness of 1960s home cooking. Chicken a la king casserole. In the 1960s, chicken a la king casserole was a popular mid-century dish that brought elegance and comfort together in a creamy, baked meal. Inspired by the classic chicken a la king served in restaurants, this casserole adapted the rich flavors of tender chicken, mushrooms, and vegetables into a practical, family-friendly one-dish dinner. It became a staple in American kitchens for its ease, versatility, and ability to turn simple ingredients into a satisfying, flavorful meal suitable for weeknight dinners, potlucks, and casual gatherings. The recipe typically began with cooked diced chicken combined with tender mushrooms, pimientos, and sometimes peas for color and texture. A creamy sauce, often made from a mixture of cream of mushroom or cream of chicken soup, milk, and butter, bound the ingredients together while adding richness. Seasonings like salt, pepper, paprika, or a dash of nutmeg enhance the savory profile, creating a well-rounded flavor. The mixture was poured into a baking dish, topped with shredded cheese, breadcrumbs, or biscuit dough, and baked until bubbly and golden. The result was a comforting casserole with tender chicken, a creamy, flavorful sauce, and a lightly crisp, golden topping that added visual appeal and texture. For 1960s homemakers, chicken a la king casserole was both practical and versatile. It made use of leftover chicken, pantry staples, and inexpensive ingredients, requiring minimal hands-on preparation while yielding a rich, satisfying meal. Its creamy, cheesy layers appealed to both children and adults, while the one-dish format simplified cooking and cleanup. Variations could include different vegetables, seasonings, or types of cheese, reflecting the resourcefulness and adaptability common in mid-century home kitchens. Though largely forgotten today, chicken a la king casserole remains a nostalgic reminder of mid-century American culinary ingenuity. Its tender chicken, creamy sauce, and golden topping evoke memories of family dinners, holiday meals, and comforting practical casseroles. Reviving this dish celebrates a classic that is both elegant and satisfying, showcasing the flavor, warmth, and resourcefulness of 1960s home cooking. Bologna and noodle bake. In the 1960s, bologna and noodle bake was a quirky yet practical casserole that transformed everyday ingredients into a hearty, family-friendly meal. Popular in mid-century American kitchens, it reflected the era's emphasis on convenience, economy, and one-dish dinners that could feed a crowd with minimal effort. This casserole was especially favored for weeknight dinners, potlucks, and casual gatherings, offering a filling, flavorful dish that made use of pantry staples and budget-friendly meats. The recipe typically began with sliced or diced bologna, lightly fried or browned to enhance its flavor, then combined with cooked noodles or macaroni to form a substantial base. A creamy or cheesy binder, often made from a combination of milk, mayonnaise, or a can of cream of mushroom soup, enveloped the noodles and bologna, creating a rich and cohesive casserole. Seasonings such as salt, pepper, mustard, or a dash of paprika added depth to the dish. Shredded cheddar or American cheese was folded into the mixture and sprinkled on top, forming a golden, bubbling crust during baking. Some recipes included breadcrumbs or crushed crackers to add a lightly crisp texture, providing a pleasant contrast to the creamy interior. For 1960s homemakers, bologna and noodle bake were both versatile and economical. It made use of inexpensive ingredients, could stretch a small amount of meat into a filling meal, and required minimal hands-on preparation. Its creamy, cheesy layers appealed to children and adults alike, while the one-dish format simplified cooking and cleanup. The casserole could also be adapted to include vegetables or different cheeses, reflecting the resourceful and creative approach of mid-century home cooks. Though largely forgotten today, bologna and noodle bake remains a nostalgic reminder of mid-century American ingenuity in the kitchen. Its tender noodles, savory bologna, and golden cheese topping evoke memories of family dinners, casual gatherings, and practical, comforting meals. Reviving this casserole celebrates a dish that is both quirky and satisfying, highlighting the flavor, warmth, and resourcefulness of 1960s home cooking. Hot chicken salad casserole. In the 1960s, hot chicken salad casserole was a classic mid-century comfort dish that transformed simple ingredients into a creamy, satisfying baked meal. Popular in American kitchens, it reflected the era's focus on one-dish dinners that were both practical and flavorful, making it a favorite for weeknight meals, family gatherings, and potlucks. This casserole turned cooked chicken and pantry staples into a dish that was warm, hearty, and crowd-pleasing. The recipe typically began with cooked diced chicken, often left over from a roasted bird combined with chopped celery or onions for crunch and flavor. A creamy binder, usually mayonnaise or a mixture of mayonnaise and cream of chicken or mushroom soup, held the ingredients together while adding richness. Seasonings were simple, generally salt, pepper, and a touch of paprika or mustard for added depth. Cooked pasta or rice was sometimes incorporated to make the casserole more substantial, while shredded cheese, commonly cheddar, was folded into the mixture or sprinkled on top to create a bubbling golden crust. Some variations included crushed crackers or breadcrumbs for an added layer of texture, producing a lightly crisp topping that contrasted with the creamy interior. For 1960s homemakers, hot chicken salad casserole was both economical and versatile. It made use of leftover chicken, pantry staples, and inexpensive ingredients, requiring minimal hands-on preparation while yielding a hearty, flavorful dish. Its creamy, cheesy layers appealed to both children and adults, and the one-dish format simplified cooking and cleanup. The casserole could easily be adapted with vegetables, seasonings, or different cheeses, reflecting the resourcefulness and creativity common in mid-century home cooking. Though largely forgotten today, hot chicken salad casserole remains a nostalgic reminder of mid-century American comfort food. Its tender chicken, creamy sauce, and golden cheesy topping evoke memories of family dinners, casual meals, and practical, satisfying casseroles. Reviving this dish celebrates a classic that is both comforting and timeless, highlighting the flavor, warmth, and ingenuity of 1960s American kitchens. Cheesy eggplant casserole. In the 1960s, cheesy eggplant casserole was a unique and flavorful addition to mid-century American kitchens, offering a way to transform simple vegetables into a rich, comforting baked dish. While casseroles of the era often focused on meats and pantry staples, this dish showcased how vegetables like eggplant could be elevated with creamy sauces and melted cheese, creating a satisfying one-dish meal suitable for weeknight dinners, family gatherings, or potlucks. The recipe typically began with sliced or diced eggplant, often lightly salted and drained to reduce bitterness and moisture before being sautéed or briefly baked. The tender eggplant was then layered or mixed with a creamy binder, frequently made from a combination of milk, cream, or a can of cream of mushroom or cream of celery soup. Seasonings like salt, pepper, garlic powder, or paprika enhanced the natural flavor of the eggplant. Generous amounts of shredded cheddar, Swiss, or mozzarella cheese were folded into the mixture and sprinkled on top, creating a bubbling golden crust as the casserole baked. Breadcrumbs or crushed crackers were sometimes added for a lightly crisp topping, providing texture that contrasted with the tender, creamy interior. For 1960s homemakers, cheesy eggplant casserole was both versatile and practical. It could serve as a side dish or main course, making use of seasonal vegetables or pantry staples while requiring minimal hands-on preparation. Its creamy, cheesy layers appealed to both children and adults, and the one-dish format simplified cooking and cleanup. Variations allowed cooks to incorporate other vegetables, herbs, or spices, reflecting the resourcefulness and adaptability characteristic of mid-century home cooking. Though less common today, cheesy eggplant casserole remains a nostalgic reminder of mid-century culinary creativity. Its tender eggplant, rich cheese, and golden topping evoke memories of family dinners, casual gatherings, and comforting practical meals. Reviving this casserole celebrates a dish that is both flavorful and timeless, showcasing the warmth, ingenuity, and comforting simplicity of 1960s American kitchens. Hamburger rice bake. Back in the 1960s, home cooks embraced hearty, comforting dishes that could feed the whole family with simple ingredients and minimal fuss. One of those beloved recipes was the hamburger rice bake, a casserole that combined the rich flavors of ground beef, creamy soup, and tender rice into one satisfying meal. It was a staple at family dinners, church potlucks, and neighborhood gatherings, the kind of dish that brought everyone together around the table. The hamburger rice bake reflected the post-war era's love for convenience and innovation in cooking. Canned soups and instant rice were household staples, allowing homemakers to prepare wholesome meals quickly without sacrificing flavor. The classic version typically began with browned ground beef seasoned with onions, salt, and pepper. Cooked rice was then folded in, along with a can of cream of mushroom or cream of chicken soup to bind everything together. Some variations added corn, peas, or diced bell peppers for a touch of color and texture. Once combined, the mixture was poured into a casserole dish, sprinkled with shredded cheese, and baked until golden and bubbling. What made the hamburger rice bake so special was its versatility. Families could adjust the recipe to fit their tastes or stretch their ingredients to feed more people. It was budget-friendly, yet comforting, a perfect example of how 1960s cooking balanced practicality with delicious simplicity. The smell of it baking in the oven, warm beef, creamy sauce, and melted cheese filled homes with a sense of nostalgia and security that many remember fondly today. In an age when quick meals and takeout dominate, reviving the hamburger rice bake is like bringing back a piece of culinary history. It reminds us that good food doesn't have to be complicated to be satisfying. A dish like this, made with love and shared with family, deserves a spot on modern dinner tables once again. By giving it a fresh twist, maybe with wild rice, leaner beef, or a touch of fresh herbs, we can honor its comforting past while keeping it relevant for today's kitchens. Broccoli rice and cheese casserole. In the 1960s, casseroles were more than just dinner. They were a symbol of family togetherness, convenience, and home-cooked comfort. Among the most beloved dishes of that era was the broccoli rice and cheese casserole, a creamy, cheesy, and wholesome creation that brought vegetables to the table in the most delicious way possible. It was a staple at Sunday dinners, potlucks, and holiday gatherings, known for its rich flavor and easy preparation. This casserole reflected the ingenuity of mid-century cooking, when homemakers mastered the art of stretching simple ingredients into hearty, satisfying meals. The classic version started with cooked rice and tender broccoli florets, which were then combined with a can of cream of mushroom or cream of chicken soup. A generous helping of shredded cheddar cheese tied everything together, creating a velvety mixture that was both comforting and flavorful. Once baked until bubbly and golden on top, it filled the kitchen with a warm, savory aroma that signaled home-cooked goodness. What made the broccoli rice and cheese casserole so special was its balance. It was both indulgent and nutritious. The rice provided heartiness, the cheese added creamy richness, and the broccoli brought a touch of freshness and color. Many families used it as a way to encourage children to eat their vegetables, and it worked wonderfully. Some variations even included diced onions, celery, or small bits of chicken for extra flavor and protein. Today, this casserole deserves a place back on modern tables. It's an easy, comforting dish that can be made ahead of time and reheated for busy weeknights or gatherings. Modern cooks can update it with fresh broccoli, brown or wild rice, and real cheese sauce instead of canned soup, preserving its nostalgic charm while enhancing its flavor and texture. The broccoli, rice, and cheese casserole is a reminder of a simpler era when families took time to share meals together. Its timeless combination of warmth, flavor, and love proves that some classics never truly go out of style. They just wait to be rediscovered. Spaghetti pie casserole. Few dishes captured the creativity of 1960s home cooking quite like the spaghetti pie casserole, a playful twist on traditional pasta that turned an everyday meal into something unforgettable. Combining the heartiness of spaghetti with the comfort of a baked pie, this dish became a family favorite across America. It was easy to prepare, budget-friendly, and perfect for feeding a hungry household, making it a staple at weeknight dinners and church potlucks alike. The beauty of the spaghetti pie casserole lay in its clever use of simple ingredients. Cooked spaghetti was tossed with butter, beaten eggs, and grated Parmesan cheese, then pressed into a pie plate or casserole dish to form a crust. This crust created a sturdy base that held the rich filling, typically a mixture of seasoned ground beef or Italian sausage, tomato sauce, and a creamy layer of ricotta or cottage cheese. Once topped with shredded mozzarella, the casserole was baked until the cheese melted into a golden, bubbly perfection. The result was a comforting, sliceable spaghetti dish that brought together the best of both worlds, pasta night and casserole night. Beyond its delicious taste, what made this dish so beloved was its versatility. Cooks could easily adapt it to what they had on hand, swapping meats, using leftover pasta, or adding vegetables like bell peppers or mushrooms. It was a dish that encouraged creativity while still delivering that warm, home-style flavor families craved. In today's fast-paced world, the spaghetti pie casserole deserves a revival. It's not only nostalgic, but also a practical way to turn a simple meal into something special. Modern versions can feature whole grain pasta, fresh herbs, or lighter cheeses, maintaining the same comforting essence with a healthier twist. Bringing back this 1960s classic reminds us that great food doesn't need to be complicated. The spaghetti pie casserole is proof that a few humble ingredients, baked with love, can transform into a timeless dish that warms both the heart and the table. Pork chop and potato bake. The pork chop and potato bake is one of those comforting, old-fashioned dishes that perfectly represents the hearty, home-cooked meals of the 1960s. In an era when family dinners were the highlight of the day, this casserole stood out as a simple yet satisfying favorite. It was the kind of meal that filled the kitchen with rich, savory aromas and brought everyone rushing to the table. At its heart, the pork chop and potato bake was all about wholesome ingredients and effortless preparation. Thick-cut pork chops were seasoned and lightly browned to seal in their flavor, then layered over a bed of thinly sliced potatoes. To create its signature creamy texture, homemakers poured a mixture of condensed cream of mushroom or cream of celery soup, sometimes blended with milk or sour cream, over the top. As the casserole baked, the sauce thickened and the flavors mingled beautifully, turning the potatoes tender and the pork chops juicy. A sprinkle of paprika or parsley often finished the dish, giving it a home-style touch and a golden, appetizing look. What made this casserole so beloved was its balance of comfort and practicality. It required little effort, yet delivered big flavor, stretching modest ingredients into a full, filling meal. The dish also fit perfectly into the 1960s lifestyle, when convenience and economy were key, and one-pan dinners made life easier for busy families. Leftovers, if there were any, were just as delicious reheated the next day, a bonus for thrifty homemakers. Today, the pork chop and potato bake deserves a return to modern kitchens. Its flavors remain timeless, and with a few tweaks, like using fresh herbs, real cream, or adding caramelized onions and cheese, it can easily be updated for contemporary tastes. More than just a meal, it's a reminder of a time when dinner meant gathering together, sharing stories, and enjoying simple, hearty food made with love. The pork chop and potato bake is classic comfort on a plate, and it's ready to reclaim its place at the family table. Salmon noodle casserole. The salmon noodle casserole is a delightful throwback to the comforting, no-fuss cooking of the 1960s. During that time, casseroles were a household staple, practical, filling, and perfect for feeding a family on a budget. While tuna often stole the spotlight, salmon brought a richer, more flavorful twist to the beloved noodle casserole. It was an easy way to make use of canned salmon, which was affordable and readily available, while still creating a dish that felt hearty and special. At its core, the salmon noodle casserole was built on a few simple ingredients: tender egg noodles, flaked canned salmon, and a creamy sauce made from condensed cream of mushroom or celery soup. Many homemakers added peas, onions, or diced celery for extra texture and freshness. Everything was mixed together, topped with a generous layer of breadcrumbs or crushed potato chips, and baked until hot and bubbly. The result was a comforting, savory casserole with a golden crust and a luscious, creamy interior. It was the kind of meal that warmed both the stomach and the heart. What made this dish so appealing was its versatility. Families could adapt it based on what they had in the pantry: fresh salmon if it was available, different vegetables, or a mix of cheeses for added richness. It was also a clever way to introduce more seafood into weekly meals, especially in homes far from the coast. The flavor of the salmon gave the casserole a subtle sophistication, elevating it beyond the typical weekday dinner. In today's world of quick meals and takeout, the salmon noodle casserole deserves a comeback. With a few modern updates, such as using fresh salmon, whole grain noodles, and a homemade cream sauce, this vintage favorite can easily fit into contemporary kitchens. It's a nostalgic reminder of how simple, wholesome ingredients can come together to create something truly satisfying. Reviving the salmon noodle casserole means bringing back a bit of the warmth, resourcefulness, and family-centered spirit that defined the 1960s dinner table. Zucchini hamburger casserole. The zucchini hamburger casserole is a wholesome and hearty dish that captures the essence of 1960s home cooking. Practical, comforting, and made to bring families together. During that era, casseroles were a symbol of simplicity and togetherness, and this recipe perfectly reflected those values. It was a way to make the most of seasonal produce like zucchini while stretching ground beef into a satisfying meal that could feed a whole family with ease. At its core, the zucchini hamburger casserole combined browned ground beef with sautéed onions, garlic, and sometimes diced tomatoes or tomato sauce to create a flavorful base. Layers of thinly sliced zucchini and shredded cheese were added. Then everything was topped with a light breadcrumb mixture for a crisp finish. Some versions incorporated rice, noodles, or even cream-style soups to enhance the casserole's creamy texture and make it extra filling. Once baked, the dish emerged golden and bubbling, with tender zucchini nestled in a savory, cheesy beef mixture that smelled irresistible. What made this casserole so popular was its versatility and balance. It offered the rich, savory flavor of hamburgers, but with the freshness and nutrition of garden vegetables. It was also a clever way for homemakers to use up an abundance of zucchini from summer gardens, a common challenge that inspired creativity in mid-century kitchens. The dish was nutritious, affordable, and adaptable, fitting perfectly into the 1960s tradition of making flavorful meals out of simple, everyday ingredients. Today, the zucchini hamburger casserole deserves a well-earned revival. It's a perfect comfort food for modern cooks looking to blend nostalgia with healthier, fresh ingredients. Using lean ground beef or turkey, fresh herbs, and reduced fat cheese can give it a lighter, contemporary touch without losing its home-style charm. Whether served as a weeknight dinner or a comforting weekend bake, this casserole remains a timeless reminder that the best meals often come from humble beginnings, hearty, homemade, and made to share with those you love. Sausage and apple casserole. The sausage and apple casserole is one of those charming dishes from the 1960s that beautifully captures the era's love for creative, comforting home cooking. It combined sweet and savory flavors in a way that felt both rustic and refined, making it a favorite for cozy family dinners or fall gatherings. At a time when casseroles were a staple of every home cook's repertoire, this dish stood out for its unexpected pairing of juicy sausage and tender caramelized apples, a combination that turned simple ingredients into something truly memorable. This casserole typically began with browned pork sausage, which provided a rich, savory base. Sliced apples, often tart varieties like Granny Smith's, were layered on top, creating a pleasant contrast of sweetness and acidity. Many versions also included sliced onions or a handful of breadcrumbs mixed with butter, giving the dish a comforting, hearty texture. A splash of apple cider or broth was sometimes poured over the layers to keep everything moist as it baked. The result was a warm, aromatic casserole that filled the kitchen with the scent of sizzling sausage, baked apples, and spices, a true hallmark of 1960s family cooking. What made the sausage and apple casserole so appealing was its balance of flavors and simplicity. It was easy to prepare, yet it tasted like something special. The sweetness of the apples mellowed the richness of the sausage, while the gentle spices, often cinnamon, nutmeg, or sage, tied everything together beautifully. It was a meal that celebrated comfort and seasonality, perfect for chilly evenings when families gathered around the table to share stories and laughter. Bringing this casserole back today is more than a nod to nostalgia. It's an opportunity to rediscover a dish that feels just as comforting now as it did decades ago. Modern cooks can update it with fresh herbs, leaner sausage, or even a touch of maple syrup for depth. No matter how it's made, the sausage and apple casserole remains a timeless reminder that the best meals are those that warm both the body and the heart. Rice and mushroom casserole. The rice and mushroom casserole is a comforting classic from the 1960s that deserves a place back on modern dinner tables. During that era, casseroles were all about practicality and warmth. Simple, hearty dishes made from everyday ingredients that could easily feed a family. The rice and mushroom casserole was one of the most beloved, known for its rich, earthy flavor and creamy texture. It was a humble yet elegant dish that showcased how a few pantry staples could come together to create something truly satisfying. This vintage casserole usually began with cooked rice as the base, often combined with a can of cream of mushroom soup, a kitchen essential of the decade. Fresh or canned mushrooms were sautéed with butter and onions, then mixed into the rice along with milk or broth to keep everything moist and flavorful. Many home cooks added shredded cheese, toasted almonds, or even a sprinkle of parsley for extra depth and texture. Baked until golden and bubbly, the casserole emerged from the oven with a tempting aroma and a smooth, creamy consistency that made it a comforting favorite for weeknight dinners or potlucks. What made the rice and mushroom casserole stand out was its versatility. It could serve as a simple vegetarian main dish or as a delicious side to roasted meats or poultry. It was budget-friendly, easy to prepare, and endlessly adaptable. Exactly the kind of recipe that reflected the ingenuity of 1960s homemakers. Even those who weren't fond of mushrooms often found themselves reaching for a second helping thanks to its mellow, savory flavor and irresistible creaminess. Today, the rice and mushroom casserole remains a perfect example of timeless comfort food. Modern versions can feature wild rice, fresh herbs, and real cream instead of canned soup for a more wholesome touch. Whether served as a cozy side dish or a satisfying main course, this casserole continues to embody the heart of vintage home cooking. Simple, flavorful, and made with love. Cheesy cauliflower bake. The cheesy cauliflower bake is a shining example of the kind of comfort food that defined 1960s home cooking. Simple, creamy, and irresistibly satisfying. At a time when casseroles were the heart of family meals, this dish offered a delicious way to make vegetables the star of the table. It turned the humble cauliflower, often overlooked, into a rich and hearty side or main dish that everyone, even picky eaters, could enjoy. In its classic form, the cheesy cauliflower bake began with tender cauliflower florets, lightly cooked until just soft. These were then nestled into a casserole dish and smothered in a luscious cheese sauce, often made from a can of condensed cream soup or a simple blend of butter, milk, and shredded cheddar. A generous layer of cheese on top ensured a bubbly golden crust once baked. Some homemakers added breadcrumbs, paprika, or a sprinkle of parsley to give the dish extra color and texture. The result was a creamy, gooey masterpiece that balanced richness with a subtle vegetable sweetness, the perfect mix of indulgence and nourishment. What made this casserole so beloved was its versatility. It could be served as a comforting side dish for Sunday roasts or as a vegetarian main course on its own. It was also an easy way to sneak more vegetables into family meals without sacrificing flavor. In many homes, it became a holiday favorite, proudly placed alongside meats, potatoes, and other hearty dishes. The combination of melted cheese and tender cauliflower created a nostalgic flavor that still feels like home decades later. Today, the cheesy cauliflower bake deserves to reclaim its spot on the modern dinner table. With a few simple updates, using fresh cheeses, adding herbs like thyme or chives, or incorporating roasted garlic, this retro classic can feel both nostalgic and new. It's proof that the best comfort foods never go out of style. Warm, creamy, and made to bring families together, one bubbling bite at a time. Chicken and stuffing casserole. The chicken and stuffing casserole is a quintessential comfort dish from the 1960s, representing the era's love for hearty, easy-to-prepare meals that could satisfy the whole family. This casserole was a clever way to combine two beloved components of a traditional roast dinner, savory roasted chicken and flavorful stuffing, into a single, convenient, and deeply comforting dish. It was perfect for weeknight dinners, holiday leftovers, or family gatherings, offering both simplicity and warmth in every bite. The classic preparation started with cooked, shredded, or diced chicken, often roasted or leftover from a previous meal. This protein was layered over a base of prepared stuffing or seasoned bread cubes, which absorbed the chicken juices and became wonderfully moist during baking. A can of cream of mushroom or chicken soup, sometimes mixed with milk, was poured over the layers to create a rich, creamy binding sauce. Some cooks added vegetables like peas, carrots, or onions to enhance flavor and nutrition, while a topping of melted cheese or breadcrumbs added a golden, slightly crisp finish. Once baked, the casserole emerged hot, bubbly, and fragrant, filling the kitchen with the scent of home-cooked goodness. What made the chicken and stuffing casserole so enduring was its combination of comfort, practicality, and flavor. It allowed homemakers to stretch leftovers into a complete, satisfying meal while still maintaining the tastes and textures everyone loved. The interplay between tender chicken, savory stuffing, and creamy sauce created a dish that felt indulgent without being complicated. Today, this casserole remains just as appealing. Modern adaptations can use fresh herbs, whole grain bread, or a lighter cream sauce, giving the classic recipe a contemporary twist while retaining its nostalgic charm. The chicken and stuffing casserole is more than a meal. It's a reminder of shared family dinners, warmth, and the simple joy of comfort food baked with care. A timeless dish that continues to deserve a place on our tables. Ground beef and cabbage bake. The ground beef and cabbage bake is a hearty, nostalgic dish that perfectly captures the spirit of 1960s home cooking. Simple, filling, and packed with flavor. During that era, casseroles were a staple in American kitchens, prized for their ability to feed a family with minimal effort while stretching inexpensive ingredients. This particular casserole combined the savory richness of ground beef with the earthy, slightly sweet taste of cabbage, creating a comforting meal that was as satisfying as it was practical. The classic recipe typically began with browned ground beef, seasoned with onions, garlic, and a pinch of salt and pepper. Chopped cabbage was sautéed or lightly steamed before being layered with the beef, often alongside cooked rice, noodles, or even mashed potatoes to add heartiness. Many versions included a creamy or tomato-based sauce, sometimes enhanced with a can of cream of mushroom or tomato soup, which tied the ingredients together and kept the casserole moist during baking. A topping of shredded cheese or breadcrumbs added a golden, bubbling finish that made the dish visually appealing as well as flavorful. What made the ground beef and cabbage bake so beloved was its balance of simplicity and taste. The cabbage added a subtle freshness and texture that complemented the rich, savory beef, while the creamy sauce made every bite satisfying and cohesive. It was a versatile dish that could be adapted to whatever ingredients were on hand, making it ideal for busy families or frugal cooks looking to stretch their groceries without sacrificing flavor. Today, this casserole deserves a revival on modern dinner tables. Using lean ground beef, fresh cabbage, and a homemade sauce elevates the dish while keeping its comforting essence intact. The ground beef and cabbage bake is more than a retro recipe. It's a reminder that the best meals often come from simple ingredients, layered with care and baked to perfection. Its warmth, heartiness, and nostalgia make it a timeless dish that still has the power to bring families together. If you enjoyed this trip down memory lane with these classic 1960s casseroles, don't forget to like and share this video. Subscribe for more nostalgic recipes and comfort food favorites that deserve a comeback.